the studio, I have a man who's very talkative because he has been at a session where certainly a lot of conversations have taken place. So our reporter, Karabo Letlhatlha, has spent the day listening to former President Jacob. I want you to finish the rest of his middle names.
Ngamalala, Kedlehlekisa, Msholozi, number one, Ubaba, Jacob.
Was in studio, and listening to him was Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. So I want you to sum up for us what you got today in terms of the testimony from the former president.
So I can only look at today in totality, meaning all of this week. So Jacob Zuma got on the stand on Monday and had a relatively easy time at it because it was time for a monologue for him to tell us exactly the background story to him being there and what he considers this commission. And through that opening statement, we were able to tell that he still has issues with this commission because he's saying that not all three branches of government had been captured. Now, what today was really a culmination of the second and the third day, this being the third day, of course. From the second day, you know, it was more time for questions and answers rather than him telling us, you know, about a 30-year conspiracy to oust him from power and remove him from the scene, as it were. And I felt that the former president, had a tough time dealing with some of those questions. It was easy to dismiss Tamamaseko from a position that he was not exactly at a level where he engages with the president on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
Therefore, you know, that whole testimony can be really disregarded by the former president. Fake Mentor's testimony was at best sketchy because it had a lot of back and forth and you know, a lot of holes. So it wasn't really a strong testimony. But today's testimony, that was something that the former president could not get away from because Barbara Hogan was not only a minister, but a minister appointed by the president. And she says that she, you know, tried as hard as she could to make sure that between herself and the board of Transnet to make sure that they hire the best CEO for the group.
And what did you
that
say?
The president was adamant on hiring Siyabonga Gama. Of course, all of these things happened in 2011 when Gama became the group CEO of Transnet. But the president on day two had was relying on his fading memory to deal with most of those questions. But on day three, it was harder to say that because the poignant question that Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo asked the president was, you know, the conversation which Barbara Hogan alleges happened between herself as Minister of Public Enterprise and then President Jacob Zuma. And she says that she brought a report and despite all the signs and all the process that they had done, culminating to bringing the report to the president was adamant that his person was going to be Siyabonga Gama. Now, when Deputy Chief Justice asks former President Jacob Zuma, so did you have this conversation? The best answer the president could come up with first was, not I don't remember, not I don't recall, but I couldn't have said that. And I thought that was a new line, you know, compared to what we got on Tuesday. But the president that could not be enough. You could hear it in Judge Zondo's emphasis to try and say, this is an opportunity, you know, we are not here to prove anything. We just want to get as much information as we can about the process of government and where gaps might have existed.
And I also saw his lawyers got a little testy about some of the questioning that came through from the Deputy Chief Justice as well as one of his prosecutors.
So I think it was very odd that there was only one lead from the commission's legal team, and that was Advocate Paul Pretorius. And we got to know the greater part of Jacob Zuma's legal team, which was Muzisi Kakani, Tabani Masuku, as well as Mr. Mancha. And I had a chat with Mr. Mancha just before I left the commission. And, you know, for the most part, I had to ask, is this part of the Stalingrad Zuma approach? Is this just a delay tactics? Because there was very little objections on Monday when the former president was just speaking, but there was very many, you know, objections on Tuesday when we got to the question and answer session, if you will. And I thought today that the president, at some point, you could tell that the frustration was building up, that he was never going to get out of this hole. And the way that Advocate Paul Pretorius was really going at the detail as to, the process that ultimately led up to we have to make a decision, but somehow that decision didn't favor Siyabonga. It didn't favor the person who was being touted as the best candidate, which was Sipho Maseko at the time.
Right.
And somehow, even though Siyabonga Gama was facing disciplinary charges, was found guilty by the internal disciplinary.
Was not the best candidate.
Somehow he became the group chief executive of Transnet. And I think we've prepared a little clip to show just, let's call them the testy questions that the president had to deal with today.
Well, my problem does not go away.
Yes.
For an example, the allegation as put forward by the minister is that I interfered.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what does that mean. I don't know. Because President talked to his ministers about the work they do. I don't understand what is it. If, for an example, there were to be an appointment of an officer, they consult with the president. The president might have views in so far as discussing that thing. I don't understand this very broad word, he interfered. In what way?
Yes.
We are not getting, for example, to that point. We are going to paragraph, one line. I don't understand. That's my problem. Chair, the allegation is that the president interfered. And she makes the statement, which I've responded to.
Yes.
I would have never said so. Because I don't, as a president, I can't say I want this and it succeeds because it's going to go through the processes. Even if I talked to her. No matter what was the end of the discussion, the matter is going to a discussion, which will determine. Even if, just for argument's sake, I had a view. That view might not work at the end. Now, I've answered the question that I never said that. That must be the understanding of the, the commission. Now, if we go through the details, I just have a problem, because I'm no longer dealing with that allegation, as it were. If we're looking on that particular allegation, you know, as we were dealing with the, her report, insofar as what happened in the conference of the ANC, for an example, about groups or cliques or whatever. I said that she's expressing her own views here. And these are matters that even any ordinary ANC member will take issue with her in the manner in which she has written her stuff here. Now I'm saying if I go through all of that and the commission is not taking my answer to the question whether I interfered or not, even if I've given the answer, we still go to the details. For me, what other answer must I give?
Maybe I should allow Mr.
But the details, Chair, they will include me not remembering these details because they're not even mine. And I don't know what will you do where I perhaps I'm saying, no, I can't remember. I have no comment. You will weigh all of that. That's my point. If you make me to go through every other thing here, which it could not be my, or at a level of my activities.
Absolutely. The man struggling to remember things that happened 30 years ago.
I found it very ironic that the man also remembers in detail things that happened 30 years ago. He spoke about a canister coming through a door, a spy crossing both the South African border into Swaziland, back into South Africa, and then the story ends with Siyabonga, with Mr. Nyanda as the spy, of course. But the president had to deal with a lot. I would have thought that's a very memorable time when you're president. I think you would want to remember every single minute.
For sure. Is he coming back tomorrow?
Definitely not tomorrow. So Judge Zondo, where we are right now, we're at loggerheads where Zuma's legal team is saying that they are not going to be there unless there is a new way of treating the president. He's being treated
So he's back on Friday?
Possibly,
We don't know.
Possibly.
Okay, great. You keep watching. Karabo Letlhatlha, our reporter. Thank you.